Welcome to the podcast, folks. We're digging into Cold Doug Macgregor's take on the Ukraine Russia conflict, and oh boy, it's loaded with some hard hitting critiques.
I'm excited. This is a conversation that's bound to get intense. So, what do you think he means by saying NATO's coalition of the willing is more a sign of weakness than strength?
Well, you see, he argues that instead of a unified front, what we really have is this patchwork alliance. It's like different countries are coming in with token help, trucks, medics, and financial aid, but not sending actual combat forces. It's almost as if the
Right?
unity is all talk.
Yeah, that's a bold assertion. So, essentially, the coalition's limited contributions are seen as signals that these allies are not fully committed, correct?
Exactly. Countries like France, Britain, and Germany, despite their global clout, are just dipping their toes in. And then there's Poland, which used to be in the thick of things, and now, with new leadership, has practically pulled back.
Yep.
It really paints a picture of reluctance rather than resolve.
And what does that say about the security structure of NATO? I mean, isn't the whole point of NATO to have an unbreakable front against a common threat?
Right. But here, instead of a robust deterrent, you get what he calls a hollow posture. The idea is that deep down, many of these ordinary Europeans don't have much appetite to march east and actually confront the Russian forces. It's a bit
Yeah.
of a wake up call.
Interesting. Now, another point he raises is that, from Russia's perspective, the conflict is really about keeping hostile foreign forces away from their borders. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. Essentially, proposals like having NATO or coalition forces hold parts of Ukraine or creating these so called neutral zones are seen by Moscow as completely unacceptable. It's almost like saying, hey, let's have a foreign army right next door, which is a direct security
Exactly.
threat. They view these ideas as undermining the whole strategic setup.
So, in a way, no matter how noble those proposals might sound, they're dead on arrival in Moscow's eyes?
Precisely. Moscow rejects any idea that might, even theoretically, allow foreign forces in regions it considers crucial to its security. It's all about control and
Rightly
influence.
said.
Nothing less than that will do.
This leads us to one of the more explosive points, this idea that the crisis might actually have been a product of Washington's own maneuvers. What's your take on that?
Ah, yes, that's the kicker. He suggests that Washington not only pumped fuel into the fire in Ukraine, but that its sustained engagement has, frankly, prolonged the conflict. Imagine it like someone who stokes a fire instead of just putting it out once it starts.
That's quite a serious indictment. And then there's Trump in the mix, right? The idea that his policies now, contrary to expectations, are doubling down on confrontation with Russia.
Absolutely. Instead of pivoting to de escalation, Trump's approach is, well, it's as if he's following the blueprint set by his predecessor.
Right.
But the result is essentially a deeper, more entrenched conflict in Eastern Europe, which is just, a lose lose scenario.
But wait, isn't Trump known for his unorthodox styles of negotiation that sometimes even get surprising results? How do we reconcile that with this doubling down?
That's a fair point, but here the argument is that his methods are not channeling his typical unpredictability towards pragmatic peace. It's more like a repeat performance of aggressive posturing without considering consequences.
Yeah,
Sometimes it might be strategy, but other times it's outright escalation.
and what about the broader implications? The idea that such policies might even jeopardize potential Russian or Chinese cooperation on other global issues.
Oh, definitely. The commentary highlights that relentless confrontation in Eastern Europe risks isolating major players who might otherwise help manage other crises, like the rising tensions between Israel and Iran. It's like playing with matches near a stack of fireworks.
That analogy really drives it home. So, are we saying that the current course could spiral into multiple simultaneous conflicts?
Exactly. The concern is that by not thinking through what he calls branches and sequels, or the subsequent ripple effects, both Washington and NATO are setting the stage for a multi-pronged crisis. It's a ticking
Yeah,
time bomb
absolutely.
scenario.
Now, there's also a certain irony here. The idea of a coalition used for deterrence is being portrayed as a feeble patchwork effort. Isn't that a bit contradictory to the established narrative of NATO's strength?
It does seem a bit contradictory. And that's where Macgregor really challenges the common perception. He's essentially saying that the veneer of unity is just that, a veneer. The true measure of strength isn't in symbols, but in actual military commitment. The cracks are pretty evident once you start digging into the details.
I'm curious though, how much do you think political will plays into this reluctance? I mean, many elected officials might agree that sending troops is a hard sell domestically.
Absolutely. That's a key factor. When you break it down, it's not just military logistics, it's a political calculation. The electorate in many European countries isn't exactly thrilled about the idea of extensive involvement in another conflict, especially eastwards. And that
Exactly.
political hesitancy directly translates to a reduced military commitment.
And what about the notion that if the US were to withdraw from this equation, the war would quickly end? It sounds a bit, well, overly simplistic, doesn't it?
I hear you, but hear me out. From the perspective presented, the US is seen as the key instigator. The idea is that once that external pressure, the impetus provided by American intervention, is removed, the conflict loses its force. It's a controversial take,
Interesting.
but it pushes us to consider deeper questions about responsibility.
Right, though I'm a bit skeptical about pinning it all on one external actor. Aren't there internal dynamics at play as well?
That's a valid challenge. There are indeed multiple layers. However, Macgregor's argument focuses heavily on how external forces, particularly US policies, have catalyzed and prolonged the conflict. It's a provocative assertion meant to shake up the mainstream
Yeah, I get
narrative.
that.
It forces you to re-examine the underlying causes.
Moreover, there's also the critique that neither Washington nor Trump has truly thought through the long-term consequences of their actions, what he calls branches and sequels.
Exactly. It's like starting a domino cascade without considering that these falling pieces might tip over completely different structures. The failure to foresee these long-term implications is at the heart of this critique.
And let's be honest, the world is far too interconnected now. One conflict can easily spill over and distort other global calls to action.
Precisely. This isn't isolated. It's a reminder that in global geopolitics, every decision, every intervention can have far-reaching consequences.
Yep, absolutely.
It's a classic case of unintended ripple effects.
I find it fascinating and somewhat alarming how this perspective challenges the often upbeat portrayal of Western unity and intervention.
Yeah, it's like peeling back layers of an onion. On the surface, you have this image of resolute allies, but underneath it's a series of compromises, political calculations, and even hesitations about engaging directly in combat. A bit
Exactly.
sobering, to say the least.
And considering the potential for escalating conflicts with Russia and even China if things go awry, this analysis really raises the stakes. Would you say it's a fair call?
Definitely. The argument implies that by persisting in the current strategy, we're not just deepening one conflict, but possibly igniting others. It's a cautionary tale about the perils of overextension and miscalculation at the highest levels of leadership.
Right.
It's a scenario that should make policymakers pause and rethink their approach.
It's pretty heavy when you lay it all out like that. It makes you wonder about the real costs of strategic missteps.
Absolutely. And it challenges us to question the broader narrative. Instead of a unified, strong deterrence, we might be looking at a future where the very foundations of our alliances are, well, unstable and reactionary.
Yeah.
That's a long-term concern with very immediate implications.
In the end, Macgregor's analysis really forces a rethink of how we picture NATO's resolve and the potential fallout from American policies. It's a reminder, really, that sometimes the obvious front is just a facade for much messier underlying dynamics.
Yes, indeed. And as we wrap up, remember that these discussions aren't just talk. They represent critical debates our global leadership must face if we're to avoid spiraling into an era of multiple, simultaneous conflicts.
Right,
Thanks
couldn't
for this
agree
deep
more.
dive.
Thanks for an insightful conversation. Until next time, folks, keep questioning and stay engaged, because these are the discussions that shape tomorrow.